This happened a few months ago. I'm Jason, a 34-year-old park ranger. I've been working in the Appalachian National Park for over 5 years. I love my job. I spend my days maintaining trails and teaching visitors about the wildlife. It was a good job, but something changed. One evening, I was closing up the visitor center. The sun was just setting behind the trees. I grabbed my flashlight and locked the door. That's when I heard it. A strange tapping sound coming from the woods. At first, I thought it was a woodpecker. Then I realized it was too steady. It stopped suddenly, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I stepped outside. The woods were still. I listened, but there was nothing. I tried to shrug it off as my imagination. Over the next few weeks, I heard that tapping sound every evening. It was always the same time, right as I closed the center. I came out each time, hoping to see what was making it. Each time, I saw nothing. Just shadows twisting and shifting between the trees. Once, I caught a glimpse of something darting among the pines. It was a fleeting shadow. I turned quickly, but it disappeared. It left me feeling uneasy, like I was being watched. I decided not to say anything to the other rangers. I thought they would think I was just tired. One day, I found strange footprints on a trail that led nowhere. They looked wrong. The prints were deep, too deep for any animal I knew. I traced my finger along one, and felt my heart race. I stood up, shaking my head. The air felt heavy, like something was out there, watching me. The next week, while checking another trail at sunset, I heard a whisper. It was faint, like someone was right next to me, but I saw nothing. My heart raced again, and I felt cold sweat on my back. I looked around, searching the trees for any sign. Nothing. Just silence and the wind rustling the leaves. Finally, one night, I got home early and tried to brush it all off. I made dinner, but I couldn't stop thinking about the tapping and the whispers. It felt wrong. And then it happened again. The tapping. This time, it felt louder, closer. I opened my door, and there was a figure standing at the edge of my porch. I froze. They stared at me, dark eyes fixed on mine. I thought I recognized them, but before I could speak, they vanished. Just like that. I ran outside, but the woods swallowed all sound. I stood there, breathing hard, feeling like I was intruding on something I shouldn't. I wanted to call for help but didn't know who to ask. I was scared. Scared of what was out there and scared of what I might uncover. It felt like the park was hiding secrets, dark secrets that wanted to remain buried. I never heard the tapping again, but I didn't need to. I knew something was out there still, waiting in the shadows. It still lingers in my mind, and I can't shake it off. I might never know the truth. The days passed, but the unease clung to me like a damp fog. I tried to focus on my work, but every rustle in the trees made me jump. The other rangers noticed. They laughed and joked, trying to lighten the mood. I forced a smile, but inside, I felt a thread of panic weaving tighter. One afternoon, I decided to take a walk on the trail where I'd found those strange footprints. I needed answers. As I hiked deeper into the woods, the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting strange shadows on the ground. I heard the familiar whisper again, faint but distinct. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. Silence answered back. I pressed forward, heart pounding. Every step felt like an intrusion. I reached a clearing and found a large rock formation. Something about it tugged at my memory. As I approached, I noticed carvings etched into the surface. They were crude, almost like symbols. None of it made sense, but I felt a magnetic pull to touch them. I traced my fingers over the rough surface. That's when I felt a sudden gust of wind. I looked up, the trees seemed to bend with the force. A chilling dread washed over me. I turned to leave, but I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. The shadows shifted, and I caught sight of a twisted figure standing between the trees. It was obscured, the outline flickering like a faulty light. "Who's there?" I shouted, more bravely than I felt. No response. Just silence. I backed away, quickening my pace. As I stumbled over roots and rocks, a terrible echoing laughter filled the air. My heart raced, and I ran without looking back. I burst out of the woods, gasping and feeling like I'd escaped something I didn't fully understand. That evening, I went to the ranger station, hoping to find some comfort in the familiar. It was buzzing with rangers sharing stories, but I felt isolated. I considered telling them, but doubt crept in. What if they didn't believe me? Then, to my shock, Sarah, one of the newer rangers, approached me. "Jason, can we talk?" she asked, her face pale. My stomach nodded as I nodded. We stepped outside, away from the chatter. "I don't want to scare you or anything, but I keep hearing whispers when I'm on the patrol at night. And yesterday, I saw something moving in the trees. It was like nothing I've ever seen." My breath caught. "You saw it too?" She nodded, her eyes wide. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought it was just me. Before I could respond, the air grew cold, and the laughter returned, louder this time. My eyes darted around, searching for the source. There was no one there. Just the woods, hiding their secrets. "We have to figure out what is going on," I said, my voice shaky. She agreed, determination hardening her expression. Together, we headed back toward the trail where I'd seen the figure, a new resolve taking hold. I felt like we were stepping deeper into something dark, something that might finally reveal the truth. But an unsettling thought lingered: would we be ready for whatever we found? We walked side by side, the crunch of leaves underfoot echoing in the stillness of the woods. The sun dipped low, casting elongated shadows that danced like specters around us. As we neared the spot where I had seen the figure, a chill settled in the air, and I could feel my apprehension rising again. "Okay, let's check out those carvings you mentioned," Sarah suggested, her voice steady but edged with uncertainty. I nodded, though doubt gnawed at me. What if we stirred something best left undisturbed? When we reached the clearing, the rock formation loomed before us, the symbols still etched deep in its surface. It felt even more sinister in the dim light. I reached out, hesitating before touching them again. "Do you think they mean something?" I asked, my voice breaking the heavy silence. "They look ancient." "Could be some sort of warning," Sarah replied, leaning closer to inspect them. I took a deep breath and let my fingers trace over the symbols. A strange energy pulsed beneath my fingertips, and suddenly, the ground shifted beneath us. The sensation was disorienting, like a wave crashing in my chest. "Did you feel that?" I turned to Sarah, but she was staring past me, her eyes wide with terror. "Jason, look!" She pointed, and I followed her gaze. From the shadows emerged a figure, its shape more defined now. It was a tall silhouette, cloaked in dark, tattered fabric. Large eyes glowed from its face, reflecting the fading light. I could hardly breathe. "Stay calm," I whispered, although panic clawed at me. But the figure simply stood there, watching us. Then, without a sound, it turned and glided into the darkness of the trees. "What the hell was that?" I gasped, my heart racing. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here," Sarah urged, already backing away. We moved cautiously, scanning the treetops for any sign of the figure. The atmosphere felt heavy, like we were being watched. Every rustle made my heart pound louder. We hurried down the trail, ready to break into a run if necessary. Once we reached the ranger station, my mind raced. I wanted to warn the other rangers, to make them believe us. But would they? Would I just sound crazy? After a moment, Sarah spoke up. We have to gather the others. If something is out there, we can't ignore it. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. We couldn't let this go. This wasn't just about us. If other rangers were hearing whispers and seeing shadows, they deserved to know the truth. We headed inside, my nerves frayed. The chatter had quieted, and everyone looked up as we walked in. I took a deep breath. Everyone, we need to talk. There's something in the woods, and it's not right. At first, the room was silent, but then the murmur began, caught between skepticism and intrigue. I caught a glimpse of Sarah, her resolve matching mine as she launched into a retelling of our experience. Just as she spoke of the figure, the lights flickered. The room roughly plunged into shadows. Sounds of laughter echoed from outside, familiar but distorted, currents of darkness swirling among the trees. That's when I saw it again, just for a brief moment outside the window. The figure stood among the trees, its eyes locked onto mine. A sense of dread filled the room. It was clear this wasn't over. We had awakened something, and now it was waiting for us to take the next step, or perhaps, the next misstep. A cold sweat dripped down my back as I scanned the faces of the other rangers. Someone cleared their throat, breaking the silence. You've got to be kidding me, one of them laughed, but even that felt forced. It's not a joke, Sarah insisted, her voice sharp with desperation. We saw something. It's not safe out there. The murmurs grew louder, skepticism hanging heavy in the air. They were my colleagues and friends, yet I felt isolated. The room pulsed with doubt. Just then, the flickering lights stabilized, casting an eerie glow on the walls. We need to investigate, I said, trying to sound authoritative. If this thing is real, we can't overlook it. Another ranger, Matt, nodded. All right, but we'll need everyone. We can't just go charging out there. Okay, I agreed, feeling more confident. We'll gather a small team. Just enough to cover ground without looking desperate. They filtered out, but Sarah and I stayed behind, our thoughts racing. What do you think it wants? She asked, biting her lip. I shrugged, the question too weighty to answer. I don't know, but it felt like it was waiting for something. Like a sacrifice? She joked, but the dark humor didn't settle well. Finally, we assembled a group of 4, Sarah, Matt, and a couple of other rangers. The tension was palpable as we stepped outside. The woods loomed ominously, the shadows retreating as daylight faded. Matt activated his flashlight. Let us spread out, he ordered, one team per direction. I felt a knot in my stomach. This wasn't just another patrol, it was a search for something we didn't fully understand. We split into pairs, dark shapes moving silently among the trees. As Sarah and I ventured deeper into the woods, the air felt alive, pulsing with an unseen force. The strange, twisted carvings flashed through my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling they were part of something bigger. Jason, Sarah whispered, causing me to turn. She pointed ahead. At first, I didn't see anything, but then I caught a glimpse. A rustle in the underbrush. Did you? Before I could finish, the laughter returned, echoing through the trees, more haunting than before. We froze, the sound chilling my very bones. What is that? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know, I admitted, heart pounding. Suddenly, a burst of movement caught my eye. Something dashed between the trees, just out of sight. This wasn't the figure I'd seen before, but it felt just as wrong. That wasn't an animal, Sarah said, her eyes wide with fear. No, it was too big, I replied, trying to maintain calm. We should stay close to the others. As we turned to retrace our steps, darkness enveloped us. The trees seemed to loom closer, their branches clawing at the air. Just when I thought we might gain our bearings, the laughter returned, louder and more insistent. Then a flicker of light appeared ahead, not from a flashlight. A rhythmic glow pulsed in the darkness, almost beckoning us closer. "That doesn't look good," I muttered, a sense of dread settling in my chest. But something compelled me to move toward it. Whispers filled the air now, an unintelligible chorus entwined with the light. I glanced at Sarah, her face pale but resolute. "We need to find the others," I said, urgency rising. But before I could turn away from the glowing light, I heard a voice distinct, clear, and it called my name. "Jason!" I felt my pulse quicken at the sound. I remembered those carvings, the energy beneath my fingertips. I instinctively took a step toward it, and that when my heart dropped. The laughter shifted into a chorus of cries, desperate and pleading, wrapping around us like a noose. I realized whatever had been awakened wasn't finished with us yet. "Sarah, go!" I shouted. But she was frozen, eyes locked on that glow. I grabbed her arm and pulled, the darkness pressing down on us as we sprinted back into the trees. The woods behind us seemed to come alive, shadows darting and swirling. As we ran, the whispers grew louder, drowning out the panic in my mind. There was no turning back now. We were in the depths of something larger than us. And it wanted to be found. We raced through the underbrush, the crackling twigs underfoot no longer soothing but a reminder of our vulnerability. The laughter and whispers melded into an overwhelming cacophony, chasing us deeper into the woods. My heart pounded like a drum, and I could feel the dread pooling in my stomach. "Jason, wait!" Sarah gasped, her breath coming in short bursts. I slowed but didn't stop. I turned my head toward her. "We can't stop. We need to get to Matt and the others. Look!" She pointed behind us. I stole a glance, and my blood ran cold. The glow was no longer distant, it hovered just beyond the trees, casting eerie shadows that danced around us. Whatever was out there was no longer hidden. It was coming for us. "Keep moving," I urged, pulling her along. The direction we'd come from suddenly felt like a bad memory. Just as we pushed forward, something darted across our path, a shadow, darting too fast for me to process. My instincts took over. "Did you see that?" I asked, more breathless than I wanted to admit. She nodded silently, wide-eyed. "This is nuts," I said, trying to catch my breath. "We're supposed to be the ones keeping order." The trees closed in around us, their branches twisting ominously overhead, almost like they were questioning us, judging our every move. Whatever mystery loomed within the woods was not going to make this easy. "Jason, look," she whispered, pointing again. I squinted, trying to make out what she was referring to. A faint outline flickered against the trees. It was a figure, but it wasn't solid. There was a shimmering quality to it, like a warped mirage. I felt a twisted pull toward it, but I resisted. "Stay close," I ordered. Just then, a cry pierced the air, a voice that sounded far too familiar. "Jason!" It echoed like a warning bell. My heart thudded harder. "That's Matt!" I exclaimed, knowing full well we shouldn't follow it. But I couldn't ignore the desperate need to find my friend. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, tugging me along. We veered off course, heading toward the source of the call. The air thickened as we approached a small clearing. My flashlight flickered and sputtered, yet the otherworldly glow bathed the area in light. There, just at the threshold of the trees, stood Matt. His eyes were wild, scanning the shadows with trepidation. "Help!" He cried out again, but there was something strange in his tone, something off. "Matt!" I shouted, rushing toward him. But the moment I took a step forward, he recoiled, as if I was the threat. "Stay back. It's not what you think." I stopped, confusion clouding my thoughts. "What are you talking about? We've got to leave." No. He shook his head violently. You don't understand. It's too late for me. My heart sank. I glanced at Sarah. She looked as lost as I felt. Suddenly, the whispers surged, wrapping around us once more frantic than before. I heard the voices calling my name again. This time, they weren't just echoes, they carried a weight, looming with expectation. I felt something shift inside me, an unsettling urge to turn back to the glow. What is happening? Sarah turned to me, her expression a mix of terror and confusion. I don't know, I admitted, backing away slowly. Then everything went dark. It was as if the forest itself swallowed the light, leaving us with only the sound of our racing hearts and the overwhelming whispers that tangled around us. Run! I shouted, grabbing her arm once more. But this time, the shadows answered back, and I knew we were cornered. As we stumbled back into the deeper woods, I caught a fleeting glimpse of movement. Something was watching us, something that knew our fears. And in that moment, it became clear, we were not just hunting a mystery. We were the hunted. I felt a presence close behind, and my instincts roared with urgency. I had to find a way out before the woods claimed us, body and soul. I pulled Sarah deeper into the trees, instinct guiding my feet as they pounded against the earth. The whispers morphed into cries, echoing our names, taunting us. Every turn I took felt wrong, like the forest was reshaping itself around our path to trap us. Jason, stop! Sarah yelled, yanking my arm. I was breathless, my lungs burning. We can't. Before I could finish, a figure burst from the underbrush, blocking our escape. It was a man, wild eyes, hair tangled like he'd just emerged from a storm. Help me! He screamed, voice cracking. A primal fear coursed through me. What do you want? Don't listen to him. Sarah shouted. It could be a trick. The stranger's face twisted in agony. They're coming. You have to trust me. I hesitated, caught between fear and the instinct to help. Then, as if reading my mind, the man whipped around, pointing toward the darkness behind him. They're here. You have to run. With a surge of adrenaline, I made a decision. Come on. We have to go. We bolted past him, ignoring his frantic pleas. More shadows danced in the periphery, a fog of silhouettes threatening to engulf us. As we ran, I glanced back. The stranger vanished into the gloom, like a mirage. We need to find a way out. Sarah panted, her voice strained. Up ahead. That clearing. I shouted, spotting a bit of moonlight filtering through. We pushed through the thickets, limbs grabbing at us like hands. My heart hammered when we finally broke free into the clearing. But it was wrong, so wrong. The air was thick, oppressive, weighty with a sense of familiarity that twisted my stomach. On the ground lay remnants of a camp. Tents, sleeping bags, and mats strewn about, yet no sign of life. This wasn't just any campsite. I recognized the layout, the gear. It was ours, from last summer. This isn't happening, Sarah whispered, backing away as her eyes darted around, searching for anyone who would help. Matt was here, I realized, dread settling heavy in my chest. He must have come this way. Jason. Sarah grabbed my arm again. Look. Following her gaze, I saw something glint in the moonlight near the edge of the clearing. I stepped closer, my heart racing. It was Matt's flashlight, flickering weakly, abandoned. I felt a surge of panic. No. No, no, no. Suddenly, the whispers returned, rising in a crescendo as if the very trees were speaking. They coiled around us, suffocating. I couldn't make out words, just the garbled sounds of our names mixed with laughter. What do they want? Sarah cried, her eyes wide with terror. I don't know. I shouted back, frustration boiling over. Then, from behind us, I heard a voice deep and resonant. "You shouldn't have come here." Spinning around, I faced a figure cloaked in shadows, its eyes golden and piercing. A chill ran down my spine. "Who are you?" I demanded, voice shaking. "Guardian of the woods," it replied, its voice smooth like silk but laced with malice. "And you have disturbed my domain." An icy dread pooled in my stomach. My mind raced as the reality set in. We were trapped in a place that didn't want us, and whatever hunted us was growing bold. Before I could react, the figure vanished into the dark, leaving only the whispers, now louder than ever, engulfing us in a frenzy of sound. I knew we had only moments to decide. "Sarah, we need to move," I managed to say, urgency spilling from my mouth. But as I turned, I realized we were not alone. Something large loomed behind her, hidden in the shadows, and it was closing in. I felt the urge to scream, but I could only plead for a way out as the darkness threatened to swallow us whole. We didn't have time to think. I shouted, "Run!" and grabbed Sarah's hand, pulling her away from whatever dreadful thing was inching closer. The whispers turned into a chorus of mocking laughter, chilling my bones. We darted back toward the thickets where we had come from, branches tearing at our clothes. I could feel Sarah's grip tightening, her breath hitching as fear overtook us both. Behind us, I heard a low growl, a sound that didn't belong to any animal I'd ever encountered. Then we stumbled into another clearing. This one felt different. The air was still, heavy with an unnatural silence. No whispers. No cries. Just a thick fog creeping in around our feet like tendrils trying to grasp at us. "Jason, what now?" Sarah's voice trembled, and I could see her eyes darting left and right. "Just stay close," I said, uncertainty piling up on my chest. "We'll find a way back." I pushed forward, scanning the perimeter of the clearing. My heart sank when I spotted something on the ground. It was a series of footprints, too large and misshapen to belong to a human. They trailed off into the underbrush, some dragging mark that sent an icy finger down my spine. I didn't want to think about what had made them. "Look!" Sarah whispered, pointing toward a cluster of trees where a faint light flickered, too steady to be a reflection. "Is that fire? Maybe people?" The hope in my voice felt unreal, almost laughable. But as we approached, the warmth enveloped me, contrasting sharply with the chill around us. Getting closer, I saw it was a small campfire, smoldering in a circle of stones. The area was eerily tidy, but no one was there. The embers crackled quietly, and half-eaten packets of food lay scattered on a log. It felt wrong. Why would anyone leave a fire like this? I murmured, my stomach churning. I instinctively stepped back, but my foot found a branch hidden beneath the leaves, snapping it like a gunshot. The sound echoed in the quiet, and I froze. At that moment, the whispers returned, louder and more urgent. The golden-eyed figure reappeared from the shadows, standing at the edge of the clearing. "You've gone too far," it warned, its voice dripping with malice. "You seek the light, but it's not yours to find." "What do you mean?" I shouted, defiance creeping into my voice despite my terror. The figure stretched an arm toward the flickering fire. "That which was lost is not meant to be recalled. Turn back now, or suffer the consequences." "What did you do to Matt?" I barked, the name hot on my tongue. Matt was never meant to leave. He chose to tread on forbidden ground. The shadowed figure smiled, revealing teeth glinting like knives. The laughter swelled again as I tightened my grip on Sarah's hand. I needed to get her out of here. Then everything went dark. The light of the fire extinguished in an instant, suffocating the air around us. Panic welled up, and without thinking, I pulled Sarah into the trees, hoping the figure wouldn't follow. But as we ran, the shadows thickened, and I could hear the growls behind us, harmonizing with the whispers. The forest felt alive, closing in. Had we gone too far? I didn't know what awaited us deeper in the woods, but abandoning hope was not an option yet. I just had to keep moving. We both had to find a way out before whatever was behind us caught up. But the darkness was closing in, and I felt despair gnawing at me like a beast. Then I heard the sound of footfalls shuffling behind us. Heavy. Relentless. And right on our heels. As we plunged deeper into the woods, branches clawed at us like frantic hands trying to pull us back. I could barely see through the dark haze that thickened around us, but I knew we couldn't stop. I focused on Sarah's ragged breaths, urging her to stay close. The growls behind us intensified, echoing in the stillness like a ghostly chorus. Faster. I urged, although fatigue was setting in. My legs were heavy, each step a battle against the urge to collapse. What was following us? I could only guess, but the fear gnawed at my mind. Then, like a flash of lightning illuminating the dark, a clearing broke into view. A small cabin stood there, crooked and forlorn, as if it had been abandoned for years. My heart raced with conflicting thoughts. It was a possible sanctuary, yet it also felt like stepping into a trap. "Jason, should we go in?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely a tremor against the backdrop of fear. I hesitated. In that moment, I spotted something on the cabin door, a strange insignia etched into the wood. It looked like a symbol I'd seen in dusty old books back at the park ranger station. Some kind of protective mark, designed to ward off evil. Or perhaps, it was a warning. "Maybe it's safe," I said, trying to convince myself as much as her. But then I remembered the whispers and promises of the figure. Did this cabin hide secrets we weren't ready to uncover? Before I could decide, the growls erupted into a feverish crescendo, and we bolted toward the cabin, throwing ourselves against the door. The old wood creaked ominously, but surprisingly, it swung open on rusty hinges. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the scent of decay. Dust danced in the pale light filtering through cracked windows. I scanned the room for any sign of life, but it was empty. Shelves lined with mismatched jars gleamed in the dimness. A single table sat in the middle, covered in maps and journal pages scribbled with frantic notes. "Look at this," Sarah said, pointing to a page on the table. The ink was smeared, but I could make out a few lines. "People disappearing, lost in the woods." Something in the dark, her voice trailed off as she swallowed hard. That's when I saw it, a flash of movement outside the window. I peered through the grime, my stomach dropping. Shadows danced just beyond the trees, only visible for a moment before they vanished again. "Jason." Sarah's grip tightened on my arm. "What's out there?" "I don't know," I admitted, panic rising. "But it's close." In a sudden burst of noise, the door slammed shut behind us, rattling the frame. I whirled around, heart hammering. Footsteps echoed in the distance, heavy and demanding. The whispers morphed into a cacophony of shouts and eerie laughter that seemed to shake the walls. "We have to hide," I whispered urgently, scanning the room. There was a narrow staircase leading to what looked like an attic. "Come on." We scrambled up the steps, trying to keep quiet as the laughter crescendoed. But as we reached the top, a single beam of light broke through the attic's window, cutting through the shadows. At the far corner of the attic, something glimmered. "What is that?" I murmured, instinct pulling me closer. But just as I took a step, the laughter suddenly ceased. An unsettling silence enveloped us. And then it came, a shadow, tall and menacing, materializing at the top of the stairs. "You thought you could hide from me," it taunted, its voice dripping with darkness. Fear paralyzed me. We were trapped. The shadow loomed, its shape shifting in the dim light. I could barely think, heart pounding so loud I was sure it could hear. Sarah stood beside me, her breath hitching. This was not just a figure, it was something far more sinister. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice cracking like old wood. Just a keeper of secrets, it replied, its voice low and smooth, reverberating through the attic. You've stumbled into a story you weren't meant to find. I glanced at Sarah. Her eyes were wide with fear, frozen in place as if the air had thickened around her. I took a step back. We didn't mean to intrude. We were just trying to escape. It interjected with a mocking laugh. From what? The hunt? The darkness? You think you can run from it? The word sent a chill through me. The growls, the whispers, everything we'd heard came rushing back. It was all part of this trap, this forest that wasn't just a forest. It was alive, breathing, waiting. What do you want from us? Sarah asked, her voice quivering. Want? The figure moved closer, stepping into the faint light. Its features were obscured, but I could make out glints of eyes shining like small embers. Everything. You're the ones who ventured too far. You've awoken something, and now you must pay the price. A jolt of panic shot through me. I turned to the window, but the shadows outside seemed to pulse and twist, reminding me that we were not safe. I scanned the room for anything that could help us fight or even distract it. A glimmer caught my eye again at the attic wall. Look! I pointed. What is that? The figure paused, glancing over its shoulder. I seized the moment, grabbing Sarah's wrist. Run! I shouted. We dashed for the far end of the attic, the footsteps behind us echoing with rage. The light enveloped whatever it was I had spotted, a metallic object half buried in dust and debris. As I reached it, I realized with horror it was a tarnished key. Jason! Sarah cried, her voice filled with desperation. Hold on. I gripped the key tightly. Maybe this can help us. But the laughter grew louder again, dark and derisive. You think a simple key can save you? You're more foolish than I thought. The floor creaked beneath us, shaking as the figure surged forward. I twisted the key in my hand, unsure of what to do. But in that moment of chaos, it hit me: the key wasn't just to a door, it could be a pathway, a means to escape what was hunting us. Come on! I yelled at Sarah, leading her to the attic trapdoor. We have to find another way out. We stumbled toward it, breathless and scared. The figure was close now, its voice weaving into our thoughts. You can't escape your fate. With a swift kick, I opened the trapdoor, and we began to climb down, hearing the footsteps thunder behind us. Just as we descended, the ground beneath us trembled, rattling the cabin as the walls seemed to close in. Would this key lead us to freedom, or deeper into the darkness? As we dropped into the unknown, a sudden thought pierced my mind: what if the key was not just a means of escape, but the answer to this cursed place? And just like that, I knew we had crossed a line we couldn't rewind. Then suddenly, everything went dark. When I landed, the soles of my boots hit solid ground. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to the dim light of a cavernous space surrounding us, the air cool and stale. We were alive, but at what cost? Jason? Sarah's voice was a whisper of trepidation. I'm here, I managed, my heart still racing from the chaotic escape. I stood up, looking around. We found ourselves in a vast cavern, the walls glimmering with minerals reflecting faint light, an odd beauty that felt out of place. Where are we? Sarah asked, taking a step back. Maybe it's an underground system? I proposed, though my voice trailed off. The fear that had momentarily faded crept back in as I realized this new place could easily become another trap. I scanned the area, searching for any signs of life or anything that could offer us comfort, and then I saw it. At the far end of the cavern lay a massive stone archway, intricately carved with the same symbols I had seen at the rock formation outside. My heart sank at the recognition. This couldn't be a coincidence. It looks like those carvings in the woods, I said, pointing. Whatever that figure told us, it wanted to keep us away from here. Then we shouldn't go closer, she urged, glancing around nervously. "We don't have a choice," I argued, my mind racing. "We need to know what's behind that archway. It might be the key to getting out." A flicker of doubt crossed her face, but I could see that my resolve was igniting some courage within her. Together, we approached the archway, my fingers trembling as I traced over the engravings. A sense of urgency pushed us forward. "Wait," she said suddenly, looking back. "What if this is where it lives?" "I don't think it's a thing, Sarah. It's part of the forest. It uses fear, memories, it thrives on them." I paused, a sinking realization washing over me. If this is the heart of that darkness, we might have to confront it. Her face paled further, but she nodded. "Together? Together." Taking a deep breath, I stepped through the archway, Sarah following closely behind. For a moment, we were enveloped in darkness again, and then, as if stepping through a curtain, we emerged into a vast chamber illuminated by an ethereal glow. Figures, indistinct and flickering like static, hovered around us. They whispered in voices that intertwined, echoes of long-lost souls caught between worlds, and for a heartbeat, I understood their pain. "You shouldn't be here. Leave while you can." Their pleas wrapped around me like a shroud. "Jason." Sarah's voice broke through. "What's happening?" "I think they're trapped," I whispered, feeling a deep empathy for these spirits. "It's like the woods has a hold on them." Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, but this time it was different, celebratory, almost malicious. The golden-eyed figure materialized before us, larger than before, more menacing. "You've come seeking understanding, Haven Tu. But there lies a hunger in you that even you don't recognize. What do you think will happen if you take a piece of this darkness for yourselves? What do you want?" I demanded, my voice shaky but stubborn. It leaned closer, its wicked smile revealing more of those sharp teeth. "You already know. All who enter are eventually made to serve. Choose well, Jason. What do you wish to become?" This question roared in my mind. Rescue this place? Embrace the shadow? I felt the shift in power, an invisible pull tempting me to surrender. But behind that temptation lay something deeper, a flicker of hope ignited by the plight of those souls. "I want to choose this," I declared, shaking my head. "You feed on fear and pain, but you want to own us. We want to leave." The laughter turned savage, echoes sharpening through the cave. "You think you can just walk away? Jason, what do we do?" Sarah squeezed my hand, fear bleeding into her voice. "We go back," I said, my heart racing once more. "Through the archway." But our plan came with a cost. I could feel the pull of the shadows, could see the figures beginning to close in around us, the weight of despair heavy in the air. Over my dead body the figure sneered, and just like that, shadows reached for us, claws emerging from the walls, each movement deliberate and instinctual. "Run!" I yelled, tugging on Sarah's arm as we sprinted toward the archway. The noise behind us became deafening, taunting cries and shattered laughter merging into a sound that threatened to drown us. Everything inside the cavern felt alive and chaotic, shadows reaching as we dashed through the archway, the pulsating energy behind us growing fainter but not for long. I could feel its resentment, a default triggered by our defiance. Finally, we broke through the threshold of the archway, tumbling back into the cavern. I felt a moment of dizzying confusion. Did we escape? Was it over? The dark and the light swirled together in fading chaos. But as we glanced back, the laughter faded, but it wasn't gone. It echoed faintly, a reminder of what we'd ventured into. "We made it," Sarah breathed, but I could sense her unease. "What if it follows us?" "We can't think like that," I said, even as the thought lodged in my mind like a thorn. "We have to leave these woods once and for all." We stumbled back through the forest, every sound making me flinch, the rustling leaves, the whispers trying to ensnare us again. I wanted to convince myself we were safe now, but doubt gnawed at my gut. As we emerged from the tree line, I looked back at the dark mouth of the woods. The trees stood tall and silent, but a veil hung over them, almost alive, whispering things I could never know. We reached the park entrance, hearts pounding, our breaths ragged. But in that moment, as I glanced back at the shadowed forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still lurking within its depths, waiting patiently as it always had. "I don't think it's over," I whispered, mostly to myself, the ambiguity swirling like fog. And sometimes, late at night, the tapping would return, a haunting reminder of what could still be lurking just beyond the edge of light.